Hello from the Riverdale Branch Library. This is Art Therapy with Miss Amanda. We have some painting to do today, and I'm going to show you the piece that we're doing. Is this nice? Oops, sorry. It's realistic on the front, on the foreground, but the background is an abstract. It's really fun to do. You don't need too much. We are going to use some acrylic paints. I have my tubes. I also have some acrylic paint in the big bottle. And we're going to need a couple different brushes, a nice big brush, and some small brushes for these little details that we'll be doing. Again, you need your water always. I like to have a couple. One that I can put in and then one to wash out so you don't muddle your colors, and paper towels. So let's get started. I'm going to take this completed piece and put it over here. And here is our bare canvas. And I'm going to, take one of my other most important things that I always have, my paper plate, which I put my paints on. So we're going to go with Phthalo blue. That's a really dark blue. And put a little bit down. And Phthalo green. Dark, nice green. And then we've got a light green. Yellow ochre, that nice rustic yellow. And then last but not least, medium yellow. With this abstract background, you can probably do it several times and it's never going to look the same. So I've got my paint, my big, actually it's a medium-sized brush, it's a flat end. I'm going to put my brush into the water first to get it where it's nice and movable, because this is going to be super fun. And I'm going to go into my dark green and just back and forth to get it on both sides of my brush. And then we're going to come right into the top corner and we're just going to crisscross different places on your canvas. If it doesn't move well, then you're just going to put more water in it so it'll be more inky. Just in different places, put a little dark green, almost like you're doing tie-dye. Because this background we actually do in several different layers. Back and forth. That's a little too thin, but that's okay because we're actually working on stacking color. So I'm going to go without washing too much of the other color off of my brush right into the blue and go right beside it and work it in. That's why it kind of looks like tie-dye. See, yes. Little dabs of color, and you're going to build off those. Okay, let's do a little bit. I'm going to wash more of that blue out because that is a strong color, and wipe it on my paper towel. And we're going to go in with some yellow in a spot that we haven't painted yet, but we are going to bring it to meet the other colors. But we want it to just be bright right now. It will muddle it back and forth. See how as I go into the blue, now we have that light green. And we're just going at different angles. This is a time you can really have fun, because a lot of times with painting, especially with realistic stuff, there's a lot of fine detail. With this, you can be as loose as you want and just have fun. So I'm going to go into a little bit of that green. Even though we're making green, we're going to come back in with some. And I'm going to move my canvas around because I want it going all different ways, my brush strokes. And at first, it may look just like a mess, but as we layer, it's really going to come to life. Okay, see how I have like a little too much paint on my brush there? I'm just going to go to a completely different part and spread it out because I want to use every bit of my paint, but I don't want that much of it right there. Okay. So I'm going to get myself a new brush because this one's kind of got a lot of the colors on it. And I want to start seeing brush strokes. So I'm going to go back in with a dry brush. A little same flat square brush, but a little bit smaller. And doing the same, just working it in, having fun with my canvas. Pull it into that yellow and it makes that green, but I don't want to lose the yellow completely. Actually, what I want to add is some white to it. So I'm going to pull out a little white. And a mid-tone blue. Basically, we're working with little or big brush strokes. You don't want to make them too big because you definitely want to see the brush stroke to fill our whole canvas up with different values of these colors that we're looking at. We're not going for anything in particular because it is abstract. I'm going to go into some white and put some yellow with that. More blue here. You can do this with any other colors. It doesn't have to be the ones I chose today. You do want to keep them like on the same side of the color wheel, because if you do too many opposites, it may clash. Okay, I see a lot of blue up here, so I'm gonna put a little bit more blue down here. Anything I do, even when I'm just doing something abstract, I do like to think about the balance of color. If I'm working with shapes, because the eye is always drawn to balance. And you just keep working with something till it starts getting more blended and blended. Layering color on top of color. Let's go this way. Get this side a little bit. You want to make sure you get all the edges done, but you don't want to just come down with your paint and do the edge. You just want to blend it so it'll work with the rest of the composition. I'm going to put me some more yellow on here. Back and forth. Okay, I kind of like that. We got a lot of depth going on. It's now nice, and let me go down here a little bit. Everything's worked in. So what we would do is let this dry for a little bit. Since it's acrylic, it's not going to take that long, but I already have one ready for us. Here's the other one I did. Okay. And now what we're going to do is white block in this bird. So we're going to come back in with the white and block in the bird and the stick he's on, or branch. So this is already dry. I'm going to get white out because that's really all we'll need for this part. And I'm going to put away this colory water. We don't want to use that with the white. We want now new clear water. And I'm going to get a small brush so we can get some detail in. Put this here. Okay. We want to, before you paint, you want to make sure that you don't go up too far and put his head up here where he's coming off the canvas. And we don't want his tail fallen off where we can't see his whole tail. So try to visualize. You want to put the main part of your picture, our bird, right here. So we're going to give it about an inch from the top and an inch from the bottom. We're not doing anything to mark that. We're just remembering that in our mind when we're putting out our design. So I'm going to get my nice brush wet and pull my paint over here. You want to get it loose, like ink, because we're just kind of, you're almost drawing with your brush now. You want to try and get this right on the first try. You can fix it because with paint you can fix almost anything, but it's nice to try and get it done first time. So here we go. I'm going to go with the back of his head, and we're going to go like a little half circle and pull it out. And come up with his neck, and then we're going to pull it out to a little beak shape. Bam. And then he'll come down, and his little breast, wing, kind of like that. And do the same. And we're going to come all the way down. There's his body. Now we're going to make him a tail. So pull it almost down. We're going to leave like an inch at the bottom. And then up with little curves. Those are his little feathers. And then back in and out to meet that wing. Now we have our bird shape. From there, we are going to, I'm going to move my canvas, and I'm going to come out this way with his branch. And just pull that out. There. Okay, so we have our bird now. We're going to get a bigger brush than this, but still small because we still want detail. Let me see, I want a flat brush. I'll take this one, okay? And I'm gonna take it just into the white. And now we're just going to fill him in completely. You may want to go back with the smaller brush when you do go to the tip of the beak, because you want it to be very precise. And pull down. So I'd start at the tip and then just pull back into his head. There you go. Now we've got that part. We can go back with this brush and fill it in. We're going to come back over this so it doesn't have to be perfect with our detail. This is another thing that just feels easy and nice to do. It's very relaxing. You don't have to worry about too much detail or making the wrong stroke in here because we're just making our little silhouette. Okay. It almost looks like chalk. I know you can see through it, but that's going to add later to the depth of our bird. We're using our paint that we're layering, and it'll be used as shadow in his feathers. Okay, and you want to make sure to maintain his little feather curves at the bottom, because we'll come back to those a little bit later. Okay, and we're going to come out now and just fill in our branch. Give him kind of a rough end. There we go. Make it more natural. So that's that step. That was painless. It was actually fun, right? Because you can just go with the flow. So I'm with the magic of TV again. We would usually let this dry, but I'm going to move this down, and I have one over here that's already dry and waiting for us to do our detail on it. So now I'm going to get a new paper plate. Where's my other paper plate? Hold up now. All right. I guess I'll just use this one. Oh, there it is. I found it. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, clean paper plate. Yes. All right. So black. We're going to go in and do some nice detail now, starting with black. We're going to put a nice little dollop of that there, probably about dime size. Since we're working on a small canvas, we don't need a lot. And I'm going to get the thinnest, the smallest brush I can find, because we're going to be doing some very fine details. Okay. So starting off, I'm going to get it nice and inky and put some water right here. And then just dab my brush straight into the black and then put it right into the water. And you can see how it becomes almost like ink. And we're going to go in. Actually, I'm going to test it on this paper right here and see what kind of line I get. That's a little thick for me. Let me try this one. Yay, so much better. Yep, if you need to test your brush, do it on a piece of paper. Don't do it on your canvas. Okay, so we're going to put his little eye here, because for me, things start coming to life when they have eyes. There's his little birdie eye. Easy. It looks like a little pecan shell. And Then I'm going to go ahead and outline him. Just the thinnest line around his body. Pull it around his head and get his little beak. The tip of his beak is going to be black. Scoot my canvas over, and I'm probably going to just pull this out and go ahead and color the top of that and bring it back down. Midway in the beak, I brought it down because that's where his mouth is. I don't know if you can see that. See? So we still have this other white here, which I'm going to go back in and now outline. And now we have the top and the bottom of his beak. If you need to move your canvas around to get the right lines, that's what I do. There. Okay. I'm gonna make this line around his eye a little darker because that came off a little gray. And then I'm gonna put a little half moon right in the center, and that's gonna be his little pupil. We're gonna come back later and give him some color in his eye. Come down this way and outline his tail feathers. Make sure to get the little loops that you put at the bottom for his feathers. Cool. All right. I'm going to go back in and get his little claws where he's perching on this branch. And I'm going to do like a V and just kind of cap it off with a loop. So we can't see the back of his paws. You can only see the front that's on the branch. And we're only putting 3, I guess, talons. There we go, not paws. Did I say paws? I did. Talons. Okay, with doing the little scoop at the top, it gives it that illusion that he's holding on because he is. Okay, there we go. So we've got his outside body and his claws. Let's go ahead and do the outside of the branch. Sometimes I like to do the black at the end, and sometimes I like to do it at the beginning like we're doing now. When I like to do it at the beginning, it's when I don't have a lot going on. See how he's almost totally white? And then I've just put in a little color at the end. But if I had a lot more color going on, I would wait until the end to put the black on. Because you don't want it, you want it to make the colors pop, you don't want it to get lost. But since really we're not putting too much color on after this, we can do the black now. Got a little branch coming off my big branch. Okay, now let's go into his body, and we're going to put a line here that shows us where his wing is and where his little bird breast is there. And we are also going to do a wing here. We're making the illusion of feathers, but we're not really putting feathers in there. We're not going to that much detail. Okay. Okay. See how it's gathering form? And we're going to come down and put a few little lines in his tail feathers so we have some definition in them. Okay. Just go easy. You want a nice fine line so you don't have to go too fast. Take your time. I am going to put in a couple little illusions, like I said, of the feathers. All right, so now I'm going to make a new color. I'm going to take my black that I got right here, and I'm going to take some of the dark blue, and I'm going to mix those together because that's going to be his feather color. I don't want to go back in and put it all black because I want this black to pop that I have on the outside, but I do want it to be dark. So we're going to go with a dark blue. I'm going to get a little brush that can fit into where I want it to go. I like this one, small. Okay, so I'm going to take my blue, put water with it, get it inky too, and now get my black. That's pretty dark. Make it a little lighter. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in and we're going to do some details in his wing with the dark blue. I'm going to fill in this top wing. Make it a little bit darker. So all the colors of the whole painting kind of just go together. If you wanted to use a different color for your bird and not colors that we use in the background, you can totally do so. Just placing in little bits of color on this wing out here and doing it in different places to kind of make the illusion again of feathers, or that he's got something really cool going on over there. Okay, and so now we're gonna also come down and do a little bit of the color, that same dark black blue, pull it down here into his tail, and just put a couple of nicely placed stripes of it right down in his tail. I'm gonna go back to my very, 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 very thin brush. Find that guy. And got it over here somehow. And go back in with the same color. And we're gonna do like some lines to be like, oh, is that a shadow line? So I just went on the top of his head and I did that small line there. And I'm just gonna put some like interest marks around here where maybe shadows would be. I'm not gonna go in depth and as realistic and actually do the shadow, but we're just gonna make some indentations. And a couple more of these where he has his little feathers. We'll put some blue here and bring it up, but I don't want it to touch where the blue is up at the top wing because I want to leave that middle color for depth. Let me see if you can see that. So all of those little things together, they're easy things, but together they really make a difference. Okay, I'm gonna go right back into the black because I just realized that I didn't put enough black on his beak. And we want him to have a nice black tip beak. It's gonna come down. And then I'm gonna have it go into the blue. And we're gonna come up and maybe around the eye, not touch it, but just around it. To add his face some like detail, easy detail, look at that. So we just came up around his eye and then I put in a little bit more of those little flutes. And, okay. I'm going back and pulling that line a little straighter because I did see when I pulled it up to the camera that it was a little wonky. Okay, I like that. Okay, so now I'm basically done with the dark blue. I think I'm gonna come back right here and maybe put some indentations of feather lines. Easy. Oh, I'm gonna make that back one a little darker too. Let's get into the dark. There, okay. Okay, I'm good with that now. Now we're going to go on the opposite side of the plate. I'm gonna use some yellow ochre, some white, and this nifty metallic, which is a craft paint, but it's acrylic also. And I just think it gives it a little coolness. And we're going to come back and we're going to do the stick first. So let's go with just a little bit of this ochre, yellow ochre. There he is. And white to thin him out. And I'm gonna go with a nice, still small because we're working with a small space, brush, dip it in my water, put it into the yellow ochre and get it loose and ready to paint. And then I'm gonna put just a touch of the white in there to mute down that yellow ochre. And we're gonna come in from the beginning and paint right in that center where we have already did the black outline. So you wanna be careful not to paint on top of your black outline. If you do, you can always go back and reline it, but it's nice when you don't have to do that. To add a little bit more dimension, I'm sometimes dipping it into the yellow ochre with the white, and I'm sometimes dipping it straight into yellow ochre. So we're gonna get, I'm trying to put those nuances of the branch in there where it would have little darker places, lighter places, highlights and shadow. Sometimes the paint out of the tube is really thick, so don't be afraid to put a little water with it. Around where his talons are, we're gonna make that a little bit of that darker yellow ochre because there would be a shadow there. Okay, and then I'm gonna come back with the lighter with more white mixed in there. And then once I come to this talon, I'm gonna go right back into the darker. Okay. I'm gonna get my tiny brush again to get between this. Okay, bam. Okay. So there we go. We got him all filled in. That was easy. I'm gonna take my small one again and go back into my metallic. Actually, I'm gonna go into the ochre first, and we're gonna put a little eye or iris color around our bird's eye, just with the yellow ochre. See how he has color now? I'm gonna let that dry and then I'm gonna go back over it with the metallic. So we've got his eye. Let's go in and do some other colors in his feathers. So I'm gonna use this color basically to go in because again, all of the colors from the background we're using in the foreground. So I'm gonna use a small brush and go very light, mix it with that white, get it nice and runny. So I'm probably gonna put some water in it. And we're gonna come back in right here with our little yellow ochre white color. And then a little right here. Let's do some in his plumage down at the bottom. I want to go back in with this small, tiny, thin brush again, and I'm going to come in here and put a couple of those little feather details. Even add a little stroke of the color right here to his belly feathers. And around this wing. Okay, so let me pull that up to you so you can see what I did. We just highlighted it. So instead of it just being that white, that translucent white that we've had, now we have a little bit more depth of color. Okay, so now let me put my brushes in water so I don't get crazy. And we're going to go into, actually, you know what I need to do? We need to do our talons. So we have white and we have the black here. What we're going to do is mix them together and make a nice light gray. So just 1 part black, and it'll probably be 2 or 3 parts white. And we have this nice gray. And we're going to pull the gray into little talons. Okay, this is a good teaching point because I can see where I accidentally went over the black with my gray right here. So we're going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and go back over it with the black, and you can see how you would fix something. If we don't have to, we don't want to, but sometimes we just have to. Okay? I've decided I'm going to put that dark blue right here and add some shadow there. Ooh, I like that. Okay. And I'm going to go back in to the black and we'll do some outlining. There we go. Okay, we're going to re-outline these talons. There. And I think I'm going to go back in and put some darker lines here to add with my little feather lines. You don't want to do too much sometimes, but with these simple paintings, sometimes you want to make sure that we get a detail enough in to make it intriguing. Boop. Okay. And I think I'm going to go back in really quickly for a minute with the brown and do a couple of, where's my brown at? There he is. Just a little bit of accent on my stick, and then we're gonna go for the end color, which will be, I have like a copper bronze, but you could do it in any metallic color. Okay, so I'm gonna go with a dry brush and barely put the tip of my brush into the brown, and then I'm gonna kind of take it here and dab it off because I do not want a lot. Okay, and I wanna come back through, and we're gonna dab in a few different places for some texture on our nice branch. And I'm gonna pull it up so you can see. Do you see? Just tiny, but it adds so much depth. Okay, we're about ready for that thin brush again. Man, I've used that today. I love it. It's good. This guy, and I'm gonna take my metallic paint, and I try to reserve this or preserve this, so I don't even take it out. I just do it onto the top of it and dip it straight inside, because everywhere where I'm putting this should pretty much be dry anyways. I'm gonna go back and put it around his eye. And let's put some of it in the branch and cross hatch strokes, which is kind of like this, down and then over. Ooh, I don't think you can see that. Hold up now. Let's see. Let me do this paper. So it would be cross hatches, down and then over, almost like you've got a little grid. But see how I don't care if the line flowed the whole way. It doesn't matter. We're just adding little bits of this metallic into our painting to give it just that cool flare. Let's go down into his plumage on the bottom and add a little bit of that there. And then I'm gonna come over here and maybe put some, ooh, his belly definitely needs some. Coming down here. We'll have some on his head. Down here. We may even put a line of it in his beak. Bam, that's kind of cool. Okay. So we are done. This is our nice finished product. I'm gonna put him up there. When he dries, he will be a little bit lighter. It looks darker on here, but I really enjoyed doing this guy with you, and I hope you have fun doing it also. Yay.